Alright, let's begin. Number 10. The hydrothermal vent cities. In 1977, a team of geologists descended into the Pacific Ocean near the Galápagos Islands, expecting to find a barren, featureless seafloor, cold rock, empty sediment, the standard emptiness of a world without sunlight. They found a city, towering chimneys of mineral deposits rising 6 stories from the ocean floor, superheated water blasting out at over 400 degrees Celsius, pressure preventing it from boiling, and surrounding every vent, packed into every crevice, clustered around every thermal column, life. Tube worms 2 meters long, clams the size of dinner plates, crabs, shrimp, fish, anemones. An entire functioning ecosystem in a place where, by every biological model that existed in 1977, life was impossible. The reason it should not exist is sunlight. Every food chain on the surface of this planet traces back to photosynthesis. Sun to plant, plant to animal, animal to predator. That chain requires light. There is no light at 2,500 meters. There is no photosynthesis. There is no food chain as we understood it. What the vent ecosystems run on is chemosynthesis. Bacteria that convert the hydrogen sulfide and methane pouring out of the vents into chemical energy. The base of an entire food web built not on sunlight but on poison. This rewrote the definition of life, not updated it, rewrote it. Before 1977, the working scientific assumption was that life required the sun. That assumption is now demonstrably wrong, which means every planet we have dismissed as uninhabitable because it sits too far from its star requires re-evaluation. The vent cities of the Pacific did not just change deep-sea biology. They changed the question of where else in the universe something might be alive. The scientists who first saw the footage did not speak for several minutes. The tape of that initial descent still exists. You can watch the moment the lights illuminate the first cluster of tube worms. You can watch the camera operator hold the shot for a long time without moving. Nobody in the room said anything. Number 9. The whale fall ecosystem. When a whale dies at sea and its body sinks to the ocean floor, it does not simply decompose. It becomes a world. In 1987, researchers using a deep-sea submersible off the coast of California accidentally discovered a whale carcass on the seafloor at approximately 1,240 meters. What surrounded it stopped the dive cold. The bones were not bare. They were not picked clean. They were hosting an entire functioning ecosystem, one that scientists had never documented, never theorized, and never predicted. A whale fall, the scientific term for a sunken whale carcass, passes through 3 distinct phases. In the first phase, mobile scavengers arrive within hours. Hagfish, sleeper sharks, rattail fish. They strip the soft tissue in months. In the second phase, enrichment opportunists move in. Polychaete worms, crustaceans, bacteria mats spreading across the bones and sediment. This phase lasts years. The third phase is the one that silenced the room. Sulfophilic bacteria colonize the lipid-rich whale bones directly. They produce hydrogen sulfide as a byproduct. That hydrogen sulfide becomes the chemical foundation of a chemosynthetic ecosystem. The same basic mechanism as a hydrothermal vent, except this one is mobile. It moves with the whale population. It seeds the deep ocean floor across ocean basins over geological time, acting as a series of biological stepping stones that allowed vent-dependent species to spread across thousands of kilometers of otherwise barren seafloor. A single blue whale carcass can support a self-contained deep-sea ecosystem for over a century. One animal, dead, feeding and housing and sustaining entire communities of life for longer than most humans live. When the researchers mapped the species diversity around a single whale fall, they found over 200 distinct species. 12 of them were new to science. 12 species that had never been documented anywhere in the world, living in a community built entirely on one dead whale. The ocean floor is not a desert. It is a network of oases. And we are only beginning to understand how that network functions. Number 8. The brine pools. In 1983, researchers operating in the Gulf of Mexico discovered something that does not make physical sense. At the bottom of the ocean, approximately 650 meters down, they found a lake. Not a geological formation that resembled a lake, an actual lake, with a surface, with shoreline, with waves. a body of water sitting at the bottom of the ocean with a visible boundary between itself and the surrounding seawater. The brine pool, a hypersaline basin formed when ancient salt deposits dissolve and accumulate in depressions in the seafloor, becoming so dense that the resulting brine sits separate from the ocean water above it, unmixed, stable, and extraordinarily lethal. The salinity of a brine pool is approximately 5 times that of normal seawater. The methane and hydrogen sulfide concentrations are extreme. Any fish or crustacean that swims into the boundary layer is narcotized almost instantly. Anything that descends fully into the pool dies. The edges of large brine pools are lined with the bodies of creatures that venture too close. The pools do not consume them, they simply stop them. The scientific name for what brine pools do to organisms that enter them is immediate mortality. The researchers watching the ROV footage in real time saw fish approach the surface of the pool, lose motor function at the boundary layer, and sink in. The fish do not resurface. What makes brine pools particularly difficult to process is the life that lives at their margins: mussels, tube worms, bacterial mats, organisms that should not survive the methane and sulfide concentrations, thriving in communities around the perimeter of something that kills everything that touches it. One research team, upon seeing the footage of a brine pool for the first time, described it as looking at an alien planet. The surface of the pool reflects the submersible's lights like a mirror. The shoreline is precise, the waves are real. It sits at the bottom of the ocean, a lake inside an ocean, lethal, stable, and surrounded by life that has learned exactly how close to the edge it can exist. We have now found hundreds of brine pools across the Gulf of Mexico, the Mediterranean, and the Red Sea. Each one is slightly different. Each one is completely lethal to most things that enter it. None of them should be there. All of them are. Number 7. The Lost City. In the year 2000, researchers aboard the research vessel Atlantis were conducting a survey of the mid-Atlantic ridge when their towed camera system captured something unexpected on the seafloor, approximately 750 meters down. White, towering, alien. Not the black smoker chimneys of hydrothermal vents, not the dark mineral formations of the deep sea floor. White carbonate towers, some of them rising 60 meters from the seafloor, connected by a network of smaller formations, some still venting warm alkaline fluid, some ancient and silent. They called it the Lost City. The Lost City hydrothermal field is not powered by volcanic activity the way standard hydrothermal vents are. It is powered by a chemical reaction called serpentinization, in which seawater reacts with rock deep in the Earth's mantle and produces heat, hydrogen, and methane as byproducts. This reaction does not require a magma source. It does not require a tectonic boundary. It requires only water and a specific type of rock. The implication of this is difficult to overstate. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems, powered by volcanic activity, are geologically constrained. They exist where the geology permits them. The Lost City ecosystem exists because of a chemical reaction that can occur anywhere on Earth where ocean water contacts mantle rock. That means environments like this could exist on ocean worlds far from volcanic activity. On the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, where vast oceans of liquid water sit beneath kilometers of ice, serpentinization may be occurring right now. The same reaction powering the Lost City could be powering ecosystems on Europa or Enceladus at this moment. What truly silenced the scientists who first documented the Lost City was its age. Dating of the carbonate structures suggested the field had been active for at least 30,000 years. Some estimates push that figure higher. 30,000 years of continuous ecosystem activity in a location no human being had ever observed, driven by a process we had not previously connected to deep sea life. 30,000 years, and we found it by accident. Number 6. The Mariana snailfish. The Mariana Trench descends to approximately 11,000 meters at its deepest point. The pressure at that depth exceeds 1,100 times atmospheric pressure at the surface. The temperature hovers just above freezing. There is no light. There is no thermal vent activity in the sections where the deepest creatures have been found. By every metric, the deepest reaches of the Mariana Trench should represent the absolute lower limit of complex animal life. In 2014, cameras were deployed to 8,145 meters. They recorded a fish. Not a microbial mat, not a worm, not a single-celled organism making the best of an impossible situation. A fish. A vertebrate with a spine, a nervous system, fins, and functional organs, casually moving through water at a pressure that would crush a titanium sphere. The Mariana snailfish, Pseudoleparus swiri, subsequently filmed at depths exceeding 8,300 meters, holds the verified record for the deepest fish ever observed. It is pale, almost translucent. It has no functional scales. Its bones are partially demineralized to allow the pressure to compress its body without destroying it. Its cell membranes are saturated with a compound called trimethylamine oxide, which prevents the pressure from collapsing its proteins at the molecular level. The snailfish did not just survive down there, it is thriving. Camera footage showed multiple individuals competing for bait. They are not isolated survivors at the edge of biological possibility. They are a functioning population with apparent social behavior at a depth where complex life was assumed to be non-existent. When the footage was reviewed, one of the lead researchers described the moment of first seeing the fish on the monitor as a loss of reference. Every assumption about depth limits for vertebrate life had to be reassessed. The question stopped being whether complex animals could survive at extreme depth. The question became how far down does it actually go, and why have we assumed we already know? Number 5, the underwater asphalt volcanoes. In 2007, researchers surveying the seafloor near the Canary Islands found volcanoes. This was not surprising. The region is volcanically active. What came out of these volcanoes was surprising. Asphalt, solid, natural asphalt, flowing from volcanic vents at the ocean floor and solidifying into structures that resembled nothing in the existing catalog of seafloor geology. The tar lily structures, as they were named, form when hydrocarbons from deep petroleum deposits are pushed upward by geological pressure and emerge at the seafloor in a semi-solid state. As they cool in the near-freezing water, they solidify rapidly, creating formations that look, in the footage, disturbingly like the surface of a road that has been pushed upward and cracked by some impossible subterranean force. And living on them, everywhere on them, life, chemosynthetic bacteria coating every surface, tube worms anchored in the asphalt, crabs moving across formations made of natural tar, an entire biological community exploiting a petroleum seep as a habitat in the same way a forest exploits soil. What made researchers go silent was not the asphalt itself. It was what the asphalt contained. Within the solidified tar structures, researchers found preserved biological material. Ancient organisms entombed in natural asphalt on the seafloor, some of them dating back thousands of years. A biological record preserved in petroleum at the bottom of the ocean. We have used asphalt as a metaphor for permanence for a century. The La Brea tar pits on land preserve mammoths and saber-toothed cats. The seafloor asphalt volcanoes are doing the same thing in the deep ocean, and we have been walking past that archive for the entire history of oceanographic research without knowing it existed. Number 4, the purple socks worm. In 2000, during a deep-sea expedition to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, researchers operating an ROV at approximately 2,500 meters encountered something attached to a basalt rock surface that did not match any entry in any biological reference catalog on the vessel. It was pink. It was tube-shaped. It moved with a slow, rhythmic pulsing that initially led observers to classify it as a siphonophore, or an unusual colonial organism. When the ROV collected a sample and it was examined under magnification, the classification broke down completely. Xenoturbella, the purple socksworm, is one of the most biologically primitive complex animals ever documented. It has no brain, it has no eyes, it has no defined gut. Its body plan is so simple that for decades after its initial discovery, researchers could not place it within any established animal phylum with confidence. Multiple competing classifications were proposed and then challenged. It exists in a region of the animal family tree so close to the base that studying it is effectively studying the blueprint of what animals were before they became complex. What silenced the room during the initial examination was the simplicity, not the strangeness, the simplicity. This animal, living at 20,500 meters in 2000, is biologically closer to the first animals that ever existed on Earth than anything else found alive in modern times. It is not a survivor from a previous era in the way a coelacanth is. It is a living record of the transition point between no animal and animal. Its digestive process involves absorbing nutrients directly through its body wall. It has no defined mouth in the traditional sense. It moves by muscular contraction across rock surfaces in water where light has never penetrated. It is not monstrous. It is not terrifying in the conventional sense. What it is a window that should not still be open. Looking at Xenoturbella is looking at what life was doing approximately 600 million years ago, and it is still doing it, unchanged. In the dark at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Number 3, the Milky Sea. For centuries, sailors reported something that marine scientists categorized as legend, a phenomenon in certain stretches of the Indian Ocean where the sea itself glowed, not bioluminescent flashes from individual organisms, a sustained, continuous, even glow across thousands of square kilometers of ocean surface. Sailors described sailing through what appeared to be a sea of white light. Some described the water appearing to glow from within. The report spanned 4 centuries and dozens of independent sources. In 2005, scientists used archived satellite imagery to verify the phenomenon for the first time. The Milky Sea is real. Satellite data captured a glowing patch of ocean, approximately 15,400 square kilometers in area, roughly the size of Connecticut, glowing continuously for 3 days in the northwest Indian Ocean. The source is bioluminescent bacteria, Vibrio harvei, present in concentrations so extreme that their collective light output is visible from space. The verified extent of some Milky Sea events requires a bacterial population in the billions of billions. A collective organism, if it can be called that, covering an area larger than some countries, producing enough light to be detected by orbital satellites, existing in the surface ocean with almost no scientific documentation of its formation, maintenance, or dissolution. What made researchers go sit silent was not the scale, it was the coordination implication. Bioluminescent bacteria produce light through a mechanism called quorum sensing. They detect the density of other bacteria around them and activate their light-producing genes when the population crosses a threshold. The Milky Sea represents quorum sensing at a scale that has no biological precedent. Billions of individual single-celled organisms, coordinating a simultaneous biological response across 15,000 square kilometers of open ocean. There is no central signal. There is no coordinator. There is only a threshold and a response, and suddenly the ocean is visible from space. The sailors were not mistaken. They were sailing through the largest coordinated biological event in the documented history of marine science, and for 4 centuries, we called it folklore. Number 2, the Deep Sea Mirror Zone. In the early 1990s, researchers operating in the eastern Pacific Ocean began detecting a persistent acoustic anomaly at depths between 200 and 1,000 meters. The anomaly appeared on sonar as a solid reflective layer, a false bottom rising and descending on a daily cycle. It was not the seafloor, it moved. The deep scattering layer is one of the largest animal migrations on Earth, occurring every single day in every ocean, completely invisible from the surface. At dawn, billions of organisms, fish, squid, copepods, lanternfish, siphonophores, descend from the surface waters where they feed at night into the deeper, darker, colder water below to avoid daytime predators. At dusk they ascend again. The scale of this migration is almost impossible to convey. The biomass involved in the daily vertical migration of the deep scattering layer is estimated to exceed the total mass of all larger ocean predators combined. Every day. Twice, in every ocean simultaneously. The carbon these organisms transport from the surface to the deep ocean as they descend represents one of the primary mechanisms by which the ocean sequesters carbon from the atmosphere. The deep scattering layer is not simply an ecological curiosity. It is a fundamental component of the Earth's carbon cycle that was entirely unknown before acoustic technology allowed us to detect it. When the first sonar operators encountered the deep scattering layer in the 1940s, they reported it to their commanders as a possible seafloor anomaly. Some reports described it as a possible enemy structure. A reflective layer at consistent depth across vast stretches of ocean was filed under unknown. The explanation when it came was not reassuring. What silenced the researchers who first fully understood what they were looking at was the implication of invisibility. This migration, this enormous daily movement of more biomass than exists in the combined large animal populations of the surface ocean, had been happening every single day for millions of years directly beneath every ship that had ever crossed an ocean. We sailed across it for all of recorded history without knowing it was there. Number 1. The sounds the ocean made that we cannot explain. Between 1991 and 1999, the hydrophone network operated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded a series of acoustic events in the deep ocean that have never been fully explained, not individually, as a pattern. The bloop, recorded in 1997, a sound so powerful it was detected by sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart, originating from the South Pacific, displaying an acoustic profile that NOAA's own scientists initially noted resembled biological vocalization more than geological activity. Officially attributed to an icequake in 2012, 15 years after the recording. The attribution was based on similarity. No specific iceberg event was ever matched to the recording. Julia, recorded in 1999, a 15-second acoustic anomaly from the South Pacific, never satisfactorily explained. Official hypothesis: an iceberg grounding on the Antarctic seafloor. The acoustic profile does not fully conform to known iceberg grounding signatures. The file remains technically open. Slow Down, recorded in 1997. A sound that decreases in frequency over 7 minutes in a pattern that matches no known geological or biological source in the existing catalog. Train, recorded in 1997. A repeating rhythmic acoustic event, attributed to a possible iceberg, not confirmed. Whistle, recorded in 1997. A frequency-rising event with no confirmed source. 5 unexplained acoustic events. All recorded within the same decade, all originating from some of the deepest, most remote stretches of ocean on the planet. All attributed to possible geological causes, none confirmed. What made scientists go silent was not any individual recording. It was what happened when a researcher named Dr. Christopher Fox, who had spent years working with the NOAA hydrophone data, was asked what the recordings most resembled when he first heard them. He paused before answering. He said they sounded like something alive. The database of known biological sounds in the deep ocean is still being assembled. We do not have a complete catalog of what living creatures at depth can produce acoustically. When NOAA attributes these sounds to geological events, they are doing so against an incomplete reference library. The ocean could be producing these sounds biologically, and we would have no way to confirm it either way, because we have not yet fully documented what biological sounds are possible down there. Here is what we know with certainty. The deep ocean covers more than 60% of the Earth's surface. We have acoustically monitored portions of it for less than a century. We have visually surveyed less than 20% of it with any meaningful resolution. In the fraction we have managed to observe, we found hydrothermal cities that rewrote the definition of life. Lakes that kill everything that enters them. Ecosystems built on dead whales lasting over a century. The largest daily animal migration on Earth going undetected for all of recorded history. The 80% we have not seen is not empty. Something in the dark is making sounds we cannot identify. Something in the deep is building ecosystems we did not predict. Something down there has been living, dying, migrating, glowing, and dissolving whales for millions of years without a single human being present to observe it. The ocean is not hiding things from us. We simply have not looked. The recordings are still in the archive. The files are technically open. And somewhere at a depth our best submersibles have only briefly visited. Whatever made those sounds is still making them. We are just not listening with equipment good enough to know what we are hearing. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel for more content like this.